I've been using the iPad Pro 11-inch since the day it came out and have loved it every day that I've used it, which is every day. But recently I got the iPad Pro 12.9 for a video I made recently, which you can go check out, for an awesome keyboard case that really turns it into a Mac. And as I started to use the iPad 12.9, I've begun to see why it's so attractive for a lot of people, but also why I originally opted for the iPad Pro 11. So I want to compare the 11 and the 12.9 in 2020, as new models are likely to come out in just, well, a month or so, which is super exciting. Okay, so the number one reason why I got the iPad Pro 11 was just its backpack ability, its portability, its one-handed ability. I really like just how compact this iPad is. Now, both of these devices, for their screen sizes and for their abilities, are so slim and so portable. So neither one of these are bulky, but when it comes to the iPad Pro 12.9, you kind of have the footprint, at least the length and the height of a computer, of a MacBook Air. So it feels just like you'd be walking around with a MacBook Air, you know, a thin laptop that doesn't weigh too much, but it's still taking up space. It's gonna take up a little bit of space in your backpack. It's not comfortable to hold in one hand, but it's not a problem either. But when you get to something like the iPad Pro 11, it is genuinely comfortable to hold with one hand. It's small, it's portable. I can almost like grip it with just my hand, as you can see, but I can throw it in my backpack. It takes up about as much space as one of my smaller textbooks, which is awesome. As well as when I put on a keyboard case, especially Apple's keyboard case, it's still super compact. It still is about the size of, again, just like a small notebook that I have, or a small textbook that I have. It's really great for taking around. And of course, it's not just carrying around for academic purposes. It's also really great for just carrying around when you're walking around the street. If you're taking this to a coffee shop or wherever you're going, it's hardly going to take up any bulk or weight as you're carrying it around with one hand. And that's why I really love this iPad 11. Now, secondly, the reason I like the iPad Pro 11 is that it's great for e-reading. I think once you get bigger than a phone, the smaller the tablet or the device is, the better it is for reading. And when you look at a device such as a Kindle, it's obviously a small screen size, 6, 7, 8 inches maximum. And that's because it's nice to have something you can hold in one hand and browse and read. And that's what I talked about in my iPad mini review. It was awesome for reading. And that's what I'm going to say about the iPad Pro 11. When you're sitting and reading, it's nice to be able to hold your device with one hand. It's going to be great on the iPad Pro 11 because it's just going to feel a little bit more like an actual book in your hand. Next is that it actually feels just distinguished from a computer. So I guess that's the pro of the iPad Pro 12.9. If you're trying to replace your computer, this feels more like a computer, again, in your backpack or when you're walking around. But this feels nice as a secondary device because I do have a laptop. It's nice to switch over to this and have distinguished work that I'm doing on here. If I was trying to merge this into my laptop or replace my laptop, the bigger screen would be better, but for my needs and having kind of a distinguished tablet and a distinguished computer, the iPad Pro 11 is great for that. And finally, just for using it as a tablet and relaxing, if I'm going to play a game on here, or if I'm just messaging someone or using reminders or anything like that, a little bit smaller device that's a little bit easier to type on, I can still stretch my fingers across. That's what the iPad Pro 11 is great for, and that's what it's going to provide. The iPad Pro 12.9 is a little bit bulky and cumbersome to use as a tablet. It's better when, I think it's better when it's on a stand or when it's, you know, flat on a table, something like that. The iPad Pro 11 really feels better as just a normal everyday tablet, and that's what it does very well. Okay, but then I used the iPad Pro 12.9 and I was blown away. So what this does very well is multitasking. So if you have split screen on here, it is a joy to work with. You can have a big Safari window open and a big Notes application window open, or you can have pages in Safari or pages in YouTube or whatever it is. Multitasking and split screen is awesome on here. The iPad Pro 11 will still give you that, and you can still multitask pretty well with 11-inch screen, but it's just something different on this 13-inch screen that feels much more like an actual desktop operating system when you're multitasking, and that's really great. All right, secondly, note-taking was awesome on here. So this screen is actually still slightly smaller than your standard piece of notebook paper, which is crazy because you don't realize how big notebook paper is compared to a tablet screen until you put bezels and weight and thickness on it. I was really surprised when I switched over from the 11 to the 12.9 how much more comfortable it was to write on this iPad. For taking notes, it really does feel more like I'm writing in a notebook. And so if you're taking notes on here, doing it for a lot of schoolwork, it is really, really great for note-taking. So I know my dad, when he's teaching, he gets to edit his students' documents on here, and it more resembles a piece of printed paper a lot better. And when he's marking it up with his notes application or whatever he's using, it feels a lot more native and comfortable. So for kind of those academic purposes, this is actually really nice, and I can see the advantage of using it as a student. And finally, you'll find some other smaller perks, like the mail application on here divides it up into 3 tabs for your different mailboxes, your inbox, and then the actual mail content. So there's some utilization there. And then just generally watching movies, any type of entertainment and media, is going to look really great on this big screen. It's super fun to watch. But ultimately, I still like the iPad Pro 11 because I think it's just a better tablet. I can do the things I want to do on a tablet a little bit more comfortably. But for a lot of things like academic purposes or creative work, like if I was going to be editing some video or photos, the extra screen real estate is really great, and it resembles a piece of paper or a notebook or a textbook a little bit better, which is great for note-taking. But I still like this, the iPad Pro 11, just for taking it around. That's probably what I'm going to stick with, but either way, these are both great options. Let me know what your choice is down below. Thanks for watching.